2, 1. All right. Hello, everybody. And welcome back to another live streaming Alternative Money Monday here on the Ledgerama YouTube channel. Appreciate everybody being here. My name is JR, of course, the co-founder of Ledgerama, makers of Walla Wallet, the original, the trusted, the safest mobile wallet in the Hedera ecosystem. Good to see some familiar faces. Of course, as usual, I'm joined by our community manager, Tim Mongai, and my favorite influencer in the HBAR and Hedera ecosystem, Brandon the HBAR Bull. Welcome back for another Monday, guys.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to make this one. So basically the big news this week, we'll go ahead and jump right into it. The big jump in transactions on the Hedera network. So this is something that we've all been waiting for quite a while. Mance, I believe it was about a year ago that Mance mentioned step function, and he was saying something about look out for a step function, basically an increase in the transactions per second on the Hedera network by an order of magnitude. And we have seen that, and that moment has come. So basically we saw, what was it, Friday, Brandon? Thursday or Friday, we saw the transactions take a big spike.
It was Friday, yeah.
It was Friday, right? And so, of course, all of the Hedera and HBAR enthusiasts are, scrambling around to, figure out what happened. Is this it? Is this, is this the moment that we've been waiting for? So, of course, we have been, told to exercise a little bit, to maybe curb our enthusiasm just slightly, because we want to see that, we want to see this carry on for a month or two. But we do think that it's that this is something sustainable. And also, and one of the really cool things that we found is that this really shot Hedera into the #1 network as far as transactions per second. So, for a long time we were kind of creeping around, I believe it was 20 transactions per second. I mean, we knew that the network could handle up to 10,000 transactions per second, throttle down. We know it can handle more than that. But it was on average, it was floating around the 20 transactions per second range, of course, with little spikes. Some teams like AdStacks, of course, continually generating TPS. Did you have something you wanted to add there, Brandon?
No, I'm actually suffering from a little bit of a cold today, so you'll see me turning my mute button on as I clear my throat. But just super exciting across the board. There's so much I want to say about this. It's another example of a promise kept, right? Sometimes they take longer than you expect. It takes a little bit longer actually to come to fruition. But when they say they're going to do something, whether it's on the path towards decentralization, whether it's a use case that they're working on, whatever it is, whether it's bringing the time to consensus down because Lehman has a new trick up his sleeve or something along those lines, they will eventually come to fruition. There's going to be bumps in the road, but this is a sea change for Hedera, and I'm loving that we're going to be able to talk about it today.
Right.
What I like is somebody tweeted, was it last year, December? Was it Shane Higdon? I'm not really sure whether I remember correctly, that these use cases going live will be commonplace in 2023. So this is just first of many.
It was Rob Allen. Yeah, he mentioned, he just brought it up again, that this is going to be, and Shane may have said it as well, but Rob just put something out recently. Actually, right after this, I'm going to be interviewing Rob to get his thoughts on the step function increase. But this is just the first step, and there's going to be a lot more to come. But one thing is, like you said, Jeremy, you said that, we knew that this was going to be possible. Well, it was kind of theoretical, right? We thought that it would be to go to scale like this and to maintain it. But that's one of the big shifts that I've seen is now we've actually proven that we can do it. And as, again, Rob mentioned, the network's not breaking a sweat. And they have, as I mentioned, there's some new tricks up their sleeve, why the time to consensus went down. And I'm going to be interviewing some of the Swirls Labs team on what they did. And it's actually really exciting. And I think it has the potential not just to revolutionize Hedera, but the DLT industry in general.
So what are we looking at?
Okay, so this is from realtps.net. Okay, so this takes into account the sustainable and real transactions per second on the network, right? So if we look at this, you've got, I mean, it's a pretty sizable list, but basically everything underneath Solana. So from third place down on this TPS ranking list, right? You could add all of these together, all of them. Stellar, Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum, Algorand, Optimism, Phantom, Elrond, Avalanche, Kronos, Kusama, Polkadot, Harmony, I mean, the list goes on and on. You could add these all together minus Solana, and you could not, and it still wouldn't add up to the TPS that we're achieving on the Hedera network currently. And now,
the question, Jeremy, is, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the question is, of all those other transactions, Ethereum is doing, a lot of value add transactions in the crypto sphere. But, what other ones, what makes up all these other transactions on these other networks? Are they value add use cases in, the crypto space? Are they value add outside in another industry like Hedera is doing right now? It's a use case that's in a completely different industry and adding value to that industry. So that's one thing that is really interesting is Hedera, when this starts to catch hold and people realize what just happened, that's the discussion we're going to have. And I'd like to talk about a tweet that I replied to, but we can talk about that a little bit later because I'm sure you have some more points you want to make. Obviously, I'm really excited about this.
Oh, yeah, this is huge. Right. So, yeah, with this chain, so as you mentioned, the actual value add transactions, there is a nice little note. I won't bother going into it, but there is a note on Solana here that basically, so Solana, so if you look at Solana, they boast transactions in the neighborhood of 2 to 4 to 5,000 transactions per second. But what this note mentions is that the majority of those are consensus transactions. So they're not actual. So it's really, it's just the network. It's the consensus mechanism doing what it does that's generating all these transactions. And of course they use that, they lump that into the TPS to kind of to balloon the numbers and make it a little bit more impressive. But when you look at the actual value add transactions, the sustainable, what this is calling the real transactions per second, Solana does come in. I mean, it's still at a nice clip, right? It's for 447 transactions, but Hedera jumping into the #1 spot. Can you guys see did the tab switch as I switched?
Yes, it did.
Okay,
it did.
cool.
I do want to bring up one thing. You brought
please.
up that a lot of the Solana transactions are consensus transactions, actually coming to consensus. And I had a conversation with a fairly big Algorand influencer today. He said, I don't care what the transactions are for Hedera. He looked at Dragonglass and he saw that they were consensus, right? Because it doesn't even say HCS or Hedera consensus service transactions. It just says consensus transactions. So he said, that's not value add. That's not something, I'm paraphrasing, but he was saying, it's just like Solana. That was actually something he said. It's just like Solana. When, of course, that's something we're going to need to educate people on in the weeks to come. And he actually had a good point. He's like, after I made my points, and actually Zepsi was making some points as well, and we did that. Of course, we want to do that in the most respectful way we can because we want to bring everybody into this big tent. But we got to the end of the explanation, and he said, well, then why call them consensus transactions? And I explained that, but he actually has a good point. Would it be better to call them like Hedera Notary Service or Hedera Data Logging Service or something like that? Of course, it's in our lexicon now, and that's not going to change. But at the same time, this is a conversation we're going to have respectfully over and over as we get people to understand exactly what this is, because they might think that it's just like Solana.
Right. Good point. Okay, fair enough. I love seeing this. I love watching this, though. I just kind of sit here and say, I mean, before we were just kind of creeping along, and when and I've seen this page before, and then when I clicked on it, recently and saw the thousands are just flying by, so that's kind of fun. Nice to see. And so what is generating all of this traffic, right? So what happened, right? So of course we've been waiting for Atma.io, the use case built by Avery Dennison. Of course, Avery Dennison is one of the Hedera governing council members, and so with what is Atma.io, right? What is it that's generating all these crazy transactions? So Atma.io is a connected product cloud. So basically, it's a platform that unlocks, according to them, unlocks the power of connected products, empowering brands to drive savings and sustainability through traceability. And digging into Atma.io, one of the things that they talk about a lot is this idea of circularity within the life cycle of a product. And so basically, this circularity is the idea that from the time that it was produced. I mean, everything from the raw materials that are used to produce an item, to its manufacturing process, to its distribution process, and then of course its existence in retail. And I think what's even interesting is that they go even beyond its existence in the retail space, and then once it actually exists in the hands of the consumer, it still has this traceability aspect to it. So companies like, so I'll read one of the quotes from one of the users of the Atma.io network. This is David Quast, the global director at over at Adidas, or Adidas, as we say in the US. We integrated Atma.io's connected product cloud into our Infinite Play initiative to scale our ability to buy back products and give them a second life, and to achieve our connected product vision and sustainability goals. And so one of the cool things that they showed off in this demonstration, they gave a little QR code. You can scan the QR code and it brings up a pair of shoes. The pair of shoes are, and it just kind of shows you the authenticity. It shows you the life cycle of it, you know, from how it was manufactured. And they show that, you know, it was in fact manufactured in a way that's sustainable, and it gives you information about how you can actually recycle the product at the end of it. So they realized that that's, you know, that consumers really just need things to be really super simple in order to, you know, in order to go through with this, you know, and to do things like recycle the products at the end of the product's life. But I thought this was really cool, and I also think it has really neat implications for consumer protection. Like, you know, we haven't. So Consumer Reports was a publication that was huge in my younger days. I haven't seen, you know, I'm sure they've gone digital now, but Consumer Reports still exists. So this has big implications for consumers being able to report back on the success and the lifespan of a product once they receive it. So a lot of really neat implications for retail and for consumers. I think this could go a long way into providing some nice consumer features. They talk about the soul and the soul of a product, so to speak. Of course, it's an inanimate object, but if a product could say something, right, as it goes through its lifespan, what would it say, right? So if you've bought a washing machine that, you know, that after a year, you know, one of the bands broke, you know, one of the belts broke and the thing doesn't work right, you know, you'd be able to report that back and maybe get some kind of satisfaction from the retailer, or at least put pressure on the retailer by reporting back, you know, products that, you know, that are faulty or have other issues. So some really neat implications, I think, for consumers in general there. And Atma.io, they say they believe in a future where every physical item will have a unique digital identity. And so we're seeing that. So we're seeing the dawn of digital identities in the retail and product world. And so also in the Atma.io, you see quotes from on their website. You see their interactions coming from. They've got interactions going on with Microsoft, and also they won. This was kind of neat too. They won the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, had a food traceability challenge, which Atma.io won. So not only are they involved with Microsoft, Adidas, and now you've got government involvement with Atma.io as well. They won the food traceability challenge. So a lot of potential with Atma.io. Of course, Avery Dennison is just an absolutely huge company. You know, great opportunity having them on the governing council. So raw material traceability or something else that, you know, is one of their big highlighting points. Real-time carbon impact and analytics, and a waste elimination tool. So big push on the ESG sustainability. And like I said, I think it's got some great implications for consumers as well. So another big news. So there we go. I mean, transactions, step function in the house. Awesome. I'd love to see it. And another big news in the Hedera ecosystem, the World Economic Forum, right? So I know Christian Hasker, Lena, Tran, Zenobia. I'm not sure who else is up there. I believe Brett McDowell's up there, Wes Geisenberger. So there's a pretty decent handful of the of Hedera notables there in Davos in Switzerland over at the World Economic Forum. And they have got a really cool setup. I thought this was, in listening to, and by the way, Brandon, of course, I know that you covered this on, I believe it was on Friday. You always do a fantastic job. Great interview with Christian. Christian's, I always like listening to what he has to say. He's well spoken, and I feel like he represents the brand well myself. But so at any rate, so he had some interesting things to say about their role up at the World Economic Forum and what their goal is. So if people that aren't familiar with Davos and the World Economic Forum, basically there is a promenade right there in Davos. Davos is small little city up in the Swiss Alps. Great for skiing and snowboarding and all those things. Looked like it was snowing like heck. I watched some of the interviews with the president of the World Economic Forum, and it was snowing like crazy. Looks like a lot of fun. But at any rate, they've got this promenade, and on the promenade, you've got tech companies, you've got basically industry leaders of all different kinds that come together on this promenade. And Hedera's got a really nice, what they call the Hedera House, and they've got a really nice spot on this promenade in Davos, where they're kind of wining and dining and schmoozing with the billionaires and millionaires and industry leaders and state leaders. I mean, we've got prime ministers from China. I mean, you just all over the world, India. I mean, everywhere. It's a global occurrence. So, and one of the things that I liked about what Christian said was that this is an opportunity for the governing council members to just show off their use cases on Hedera. And I like that he said that basically the Hedera folks are kind of just stepping back a little bit and letting the governing council members do the talking in this World Economic Forum in the Hedera House. And it looks fabulous, by the way. I mean, I don't have any pictures of the outside.
There are plenty on Twitter. Christian has been very actively posting them. I was smiling when you were speaking because I remembered something he said, a joke he put out there. He said, if anybody wants to meet the Illuminati, they should go to Davos. So when you said all the big shots from every corner of the world come there, that's what came to my head, and it was really funny.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, Christian apparently doesn't know the secret handshake, but he's up there in Davos. So so he's close. He got the security clearance. I'm sure it's I'm sure security is pretty tight. It was one of those when I looked at when I heard about them going, I said, "Ooh, I wonder how much it would be to go to Davos." Just kind of like I wonder how much. And I looked. It was like, there's a big asterisk next to it, right? This is a private event, right? So I don't think it's it's an invite only deal, but so I don't think Tim and I don't know if we'd be welcome, but it sure looks like a heck of a lot of fun. And so this is a shot from inside the Hedera House. Unfortunately, I don't have any pictures, but there are. Christian, just check at C Hasker on Twitter, and he's doing a whole bunch of posts there from Davos, and it looks absolutely fabulous. Looks kind of like a little cell phone store. They've got high top tables and high top chairs, and they're doing all kinds of wining and dining. So the Hedera House space on the promenade there in Davos, and like I said, the governing council really showing off some of their use cases on Hedera. So you've got Atma.io, of course, doing a demonstration. You've got Standard Bank doing a demonstration, which, if people aren't familiar with, Standard Bank is one of the largest banks on the continent of Africa. I think it's actually the largest bank. You've also got DLA Piper doing a demonstration. And what I like about what Christian said was that this is a chance for high-level executives to talk with other high-level executives, right? So kind of taking the tech out of, because the technology itself is a little bit in the weeds. So it's giving an opportunity for these big leaders, these big industry leaders from companies like Avery Dennison, DLA Piper, IBM, to show off what it is that they're doing with the Hedera network. And
I also
yeah, go ahead.
I also saw Sushil from Drop. They're there.
Oh, very nice. Right.
Yeah. Yep. One of the use cases are the ordinary folk like us who created a use case using Hedera, and they're there. So just not just the big enterprises.
Right.
Sushil's, I think when I talk to him, I get, big enterprise CEO vibes. So even though they might not be there now, I think that's coming. He's such a nice, gracious person, and what they've created is really impressive. And, I'm excited to see it grow in the future. Obviously, they have WordPress, they have Shopify already integrated, and I'm looking forward to additional integrations in the future.
Yep. Yeah. Love the open crowd folks. Of course, Dragon Glass, one of the open crowd products, has supported Walla Wallet, and was one of our partners from the very beginning. They were always super responsive, always had a great experience with open crowd and Dragon Glass. So really proud to see them with their drop.cc use case up there in Davos as well. So we've got, on the agenda for the week up there at Davos, there's a Tech Pioneers Breakfast hosted by Will I Am, one of the founders of Black Eyed Peas. So you've got Will I Am up there. So they're really stepping up their game on the marketing front. And apparently Will I Am has also launched a number of other technology products as well. So he's up there to talk on behalf of Hedera. You've got Standard Bank doing a demonstration called The Future of Finance, with Standard Bank and the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. Seeking Truth, Fighting Misinformation is on the schedule. Project Starling, which is a huge one, and United 24. They're also doing an event with Politico. Of course, Politico is a massive news publication. And then there's a demonstration by ServiceNow called The Future of Work. Also Avery Dennison, IBM, Africa House with Kojo Anand of Vector Global. So a big schedule up there, lots of rubbing elbows, lots of meeting important leaders from industry and states of all over the world. So pretty cool event, and a great opportunity for Hedera. Say what you will, there's mixed messages and mixed feelings about the World Economic Forum and what their agendas are and all those kinds of things. But just purely from a marketing standpoint and from an adoption standpoint, which as a Hedera enthusiast, I am all for. I think this is a great opportunity for Hedera, and it looks, like I said, looks fabulous.
Well, we have to think about what Christian said the goals actually were, right? There's no better place than to get Hedera in front of as many decision makers, whether that's for government, whether that's for NGOs, whether that's for corporations. All of those decision makers, CEOs and heads of those enterprises are there. So it's a perfect place to highlight it. So I think, regardless of what you think of the World Economic Forum, I think it's a perfect place to highlight Hedera.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So Tim, if you would just make sure that that there's nothing coming in from the audience. We're going to make this kind of a quick one today. So some nice news in the markets. We had a little heat up. It seems like Friday was just, I felt like the general sentiment changed. Now, of course, we're back to kind of crabbing along sideways here over the past day or so. But along with the jump in transactions, it was almost like the entire network was celebrating Hedera's success. So Bitcoin back up to in the 20,000 range. Can we do Brandon, can you give us a Market Mondays update?
I would love to. So
Awesome.
I guess the first thing is Bitcoin has had a good week. It's up 23%. It's up 0.5% over the past 24 hours. And we go take a look at Hedera, and hold on, let me find it here real quick. It's up about 25% over the past week, and it's up about 0.5% over the past 24 hours. So really similar. But Hedera is outperforming a lot of the altcoins. Some of the other altcoins are having a good run. Right now we're at 5.24 cents. So we've broken through a couple levels that I discussed last week when we were on. We broke through the 4.4 level. We got some resistance there around between 4.4 and 4.6. It broke through. We saw resistance a little bit again at about 4.8. We never saw resistance where I thought we were going to get it at about 5.1 cents. So we broke through that. We made a high just over 5.4 cents, 5.4 between 5.4 and 5.5. But the thing is, and I think people miss this because we kind of had that run and we kind of have this big news in our Hedera corner of the world. Let me just say something to all the Hederians out there. The rest of the crypto space does not know what you know about what just went live. There hasn't been any press releases. The use case that that Jeremy was talking about, that hasn't been confirmed nor denied. I know there's a plenty of detectives that can kind of figure out what it is, but they haven't kind of done a press release. I expect that stuff in the future, but once that happens, the wheels are going to start turning. I've had those conversations with people on Twitter that are trying to figure out exactly what's going to go on, what's going on. And that's just going to accelerate once it starts to get pushed in the media. That hasn't happened yet. So I think it's really important to understand that all of this move that we've seen is just a move in crypto. It's not a move that's because of this announcement. We're the only ones who know. We already have our position set up. We might be more motivated now to get even more involved. But for the most part, the rest of the financial, certainly the rest of the financial space, but the rest of the crypto space doesn't know what's going on yet. It hasn't been picked up even by crypto media, but it will be. So again, the world does not know what you know.
Right. And I think, exercise, like I mentioned in the beginning, perhaps curbing our enthusiasm a little bit. It's hard to do. Obviously, we're here talking about it. I think it's important because people that do follow Hedera and do follow HBAR, of course, they want to know, they want to get, the quickest news, the firsthand news. So when the sleuths see, when we see these kind of jumps, of course, we're going to report on it. We're going to talk about it. But I do think curbing our enthusiasm perhaps for a month or two to make sure that this is something that stays, maybe get some, like Brandon mentioned, maybe get some press releases and get some official announcements before we start popping the champagne. But
that's probably wise, Jeremy, but nah. I'm good. I'm really excited about it. And not just from the fact that we are processing these transactions, but the network is handling it so well. And the time to consensus didn't go up. We are seeing a little bit of volatility, but with the average still lower than we've ever seen it. We started at open access at about 4.5 cents. It drifted up to about 4.5 seconds. It drifted up to about 7.5 seconds. Lehman made some tweaks and it came back down, and there's been some new tweaks as I mentioned earlier that have been put in. So really leading the industry as far as efficiency and how these networks run. Right.
So any indications as to the general move in the crypto markets, Brandon? What have you been hearing out in the wild about reasons for the recent jump and this kind of return to about a month ago, I believe?
I think there's two main catalysts there. One, if you want to talk about specific to the crypto space, is it seems like from the people that are now managing FTX, they found a lot more money. They found about $5 billion of liquid assets. About $5 billion of liquid assets compared to initially when they started talking about it, it was only $1 billion. So I think there's a $10 billion hole there. So that could, even though it's going to take a while before those can be distributed, which could cause some liquidity issues across the board, it might help fill some of those holes. So there was some excitement around that. Now, there are some other issues out there, some other potholes, pitfalls that we could run into with, some of the stuff that's going on with Genesis and Digital Currency Group and some of the bickering that's going on between them and Gemini. So that's one aspect. And then we have the macroeconomic side of things. The inflation rate came out much softer than expected. Prices actually dropped from November going into December. And right now the inflation rate is sitting at 6.5%. So a little bit better than expected. And that has helped all risk assets, stocks, and of course, crypto gets wrapped up in that. But as far as the crypto market is in general, that is where I would take some caution. I would be a little bit hesitant to get too excited at this point because these things move in cycles, and right now we are firmly entrenched in a bear market, and this could just be a bear market rally, or it could be signaling something more exciting. But that's where I would have caution. As far as the Hedera, everything that's going on in our space, I'm a little bit more hopeful that everything's going to be sustained and that the network is functioning the way it's supposed to. But as far as the crypto market, word of caution.
Right. Yeah, buyer beware, as always. And of course, as always, not financial advice. This is the educated opinion of folks on YouTube. So take it for entertainment and educational purposes only. Yeah, on the macro scene, certainly a lot of talk over the past few days. the past handful of days, I believe, the equities markets did a little bit better. S&P, NASDAQ, I mean, these were performing better. A lot of the doom and gloom around imminent recession talk has kind of faded a little bit. So the sentiment getting a little bit more positive. I even heard somebody talking about, it was the president of the World Economic Forum talking about the potential for central banks to ease up a little bit on rate hikes and maybe even bring rates down a little bit. I don't know if that's really a great idea, but in any case, regardless of whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, we know what kind of effect, the Fed has on the markets in general. So as it kind of slows down its rate hikes, inflation comes back down, you do see a little bit more positive sentiment in the markets in general. And a lot of talk about recession possibly being staved off, and maybe we just kind of go into a little bit of a drawback, but not an actual recession. So so we'll see. It's early in 2023.
I think the best we can hope for from the Fed is a slower pace of increases. We've been seeing, we saw some 0.75% rate hikes on the Fed funds rate earlier in 2022. The last few have been 0.5%. I think we should be happy if we get 0.25%, and then maybe, but we have to see that inflation rate start to come down. Remember, their target is down at 2%. So 6.5 is still well above their target. So we really want to see us getting down closer to that target. And then I would expect them to pause at that point and get some more information. But one of the points that Gunlock, the bond king, he's been in the industry forever. You rarely see us not overshoot. Right. So they've been clamping down. They've been very aggressive as far as a relative basis of how fast they've been raising these rates. Even when you go back to Volcker, even though he increased it by 10%, that was increasing the Fed funds rate from 10% to 20%. Here we went from a base of 0 or, 0.25% up to where we are now. I'm not even sure, at 3.5%, 4%. So a relative basis, we've been much more hawkish than we have ever been in the past. So there's a good chance that we don't just hit that 2% target, but we blast through it and potentially go into deflation for a time as well. So, and that would, certainly potential for recession in those kind of conditions.
Right. Yeah. So the chips certainly have not fallen yet. We don't, it's a little bit difficult to say we can kind of read the tea leaves, but as always, exert caution. All right, so Tim, so my favorite part of the show here, we're going to give away some jam tokens before we wrap this thing up. 10,000 jam tokens going to one of our lucky Twitter family members. Who's the winner for today, Tim?
Yeah, we certainly do have a winner.
All right.
The name is a little bit strange. Shavatek. TSH Vatek, so we'll definitely reach out to him.
I bet you that's HVAC Tech. I bet you TSH Vac Tech. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's probably in heating and air. That's my guess.
I kind of read it in Hebrew.
It's been yeah, right. It's been pretty cold here, so we've had a lot of issues with our HVAC. So I've had HVAC on the brain. At any rate, so TS HVAC Tech is the jam token winner from our Twitter family. So excited to do that. I always love giving away these jam tokens because not only, and big shout out to Andrew Antar and the Tune.fm team for providing these promotional jam tokens for us to give to our listeners and folks out in the YouTube audience and folks over at Twitter. It's a great chance for us to show how fast, cheap, and efficient the Hedera network is by giving these tokens away and letting people actually, hold them, move them around. So it's a great opportunity. So I want to thank everybody for joining us for another Alternative Money Monday. Of course, if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, hit that notification bell. And if you didn't like the content, give us a thumbs down, but you got to leave a comment and let us know what it is that you liked or didn't like about the content. We will continue to bring this every week along with the token giveaways. So again, don't forget to check out Walla Wallet. Go to wallawallet.com. We're working on improving the website right now, and got a really exciting announcement next week. We should have a nice guest on for next week to make an announcement about a nice improvement that's come to Walla Wallet. So looking forward to talking about that. So keep your eyes open. Have a great week, everybody, and we will talk to you soon. Signing off, and we'll talk to you later. Have a great week.